Hey guys, in this episode, I have my friend Aqeelah with me, and we talk about our breakup and getting back together. I know you guys love tea, so enjoy this episode. Okay, so we're talking about friendship breakups, which we have experienced.
With each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was crazy is I went on Instagram because I wanted to do some research for our chat today, and I got like hundreds. Like when I say hundreds, my thing couldn't stop scrolling. Like there was just so many people who'd experienced a breakup who wanted to talk about it firstly, and they just had like the similar stories, you know. So I thought let's like unpack this for people because I think a lot of us are going to enjoy this conversation.
Yeah. I also think that, there's always a lot of focus on romantic breakups, but I think that friendship breakups hurt more. It's so
100%.
different.
100%. And then I went on TikTok and I searched friendship breakup. There's like so much advice there on how to deal with it. But I thought let's back into our own because we've experienced it with each
Yeah.
other. How long was it? We weren't friends for like, what, 5 years? No?
Maybe like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Like somewhere
It was a
around
long time. So we were friends since we were like 18, 19. And then you moved away.
Yeah.
And what was funny is our friendship lasted through the moving away.
Oh, yeah, but I was only gone for like a year.
Oh, that's a really long time.
It is, but like it was very, we maintained that it didn't affect it at
Yeah.
all.
But
Not
I
at
think
all.
the main issue was when we met partners and like that
Yeah.
balance. And that came up a lot in the Instagram comment section.
I also realized is that more or less the same time that we had met our partners, it was about, I think it was like a year apart as well. We were also kind of figuring out where we were at in our careers.
That was a big milestone. Yeah.
We were, as many of you know, 2 of the first content creators in South Africa. So it was suddenly becoming a job. It was suddenly becoming real, whereas we were doing it for fun. We were doing
Yeah.
it to be
I
silly.
miss that.
We were, same. We were like collaborating without it even knowing that we were
Yeah.
collaborating. We were just always featuring on each other's things. And then suddenly it became like this business. It became serious.
And it was kind of stressful, to be honest.
Yeah, it was.
I
It
found that
definitely
period
was.
very stressful of trying to like build something.
But you're trying to build a marriage, you're trying to build your family, your career, not necessarily your family, so your marriage and your career. It's like really pivotal things for a 25-year-old to handle when you've just gotten a new, freshly, fully developed prefrontal cortex. So it's like,
So I didn't know
it's
about
a
the
thing.
frontal cortex only happens at 25.
and I got married on my 25th
Where was
birthday.
where was TikTok when you were 25?
I know.
It saved us so much heartache.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing, that the theme that comes out for me is that change is what brings about like
Yeah.
the conflict, I think. And then when I went and researched, if there's any like research done on friendships, there's loads. But the one I found was that women, we place more emphasis on our friendships with each other, our female friendships, whereas men don't seek that same sort of comfort in friendships. They seek that comfort in their partner. And then we tend to seek it in our friends. And then a lot of the research says that women are closer to their friends than they are sometimes to their husbands. There's a lot of stuff that I may know about you and you know about me that our husbands don't actually really realize.
Yeah.
Maybe they know about it because it's been 10 odd years. They don't realize those, like how important those certain moments or details are. When you're with a girlfriend, you like go in there and you dive into the topic.
No, for sure.
So I think that it comes into the dynamics different. Women expect more from each other.
Totally.
And then you have that change of like one of the ladies who sent us in, her thing is high school, leaving high school, going to university, losing a friendship group.
Yeah.
And then with us, like marriage and career,
Yeah.
that's a big change. And then going into maybe having kids is another thing.
Definitely.
Losing friends.
I think actually for us it was the opposite. When we had our daughters like a few months apart, that's actually what got our friendship back together because we
Yeah.
were on totally fine terms. I'd already been on your podcast before and we were cool, but I just remember finding out I was pregnant and I was like, I need to speak to someone who
that makes you feel
knows
so good.
me. And that's literally how I would say we fully reconnected
Yeah.
from being not friends to being cool for a number of years, but just, supporting each other from a distance to actually going
Reconnecting
back
properly.
to, yeah.
Yeah, and what would you say? I feel like I know the answer. Honestly, what do you want to say? What would you say is the like key to reconnecting with an old friend? Like, say there's somebody who's lost that friend or that best
Yeah.
friend, and they want to reconnect.
I think from both sides, you have to have 2 people who are accountable for, both of your contribution to what caused it to end.
Yeah.
I definitely think there needs to be self-introspection
Yeah.
and accountability on both ends. And I think with our case as well, we were going to do that anyway for ourselves.
Oh no, we're very
You know?
accountable. Also, might be accountable for like someone else's problem as well.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like,
So
let's be accountable.
exactly. So whether we were going to be friends again or not, we were always going to be accountable for our own things. We were always going to take responsibility for the way we've hurt each other, the mistakes we made, whether that hurt ourselves, whether that hurt each other. Knowing us, we're going to come together and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And
Didn't we have like meetings, I feel like?
you know what, we
Numerous
tried that when we were
meetings,
younger and it didn't work, but we weren't ready. We were in the thick
Why
of
do
it.
I
We
remember
needed the
meeting with a
space.
notebook? Like I feel like
Did we?
I feel like we did that. We had like a sit down discussion. We were like, let's unpack this relationship.
No, but that's the thing. Also, when you are in the stage that we were in our 20s, your best friend is like, it's like your boyfriend. It's like
Yeah.
another relationship. I remember being like early on in my marriage, you and I would be texting the entire day,
I know.
all day, every day. And
To be
it's like
fair, we still
another.
text like that much.
No, I don't
on
think it's
various
as much as
platforms.
that. No, it was worse then. It was
Yeah.
way worse. I want to say worse, I'd say more.
Yeah, it was more. I'm like worse.
Not worse.
It was so
Also-
fun, but a lot.
Also, remember, there's just like a lot more going on, and
Yeah.
everything seems like a big deal at the time. So there was
Yeah.
always just a big deal about something every day.
And needing to overly
Yeah.
share.
Yeah.
Which leads into another point, like, do we as women overshare with each other? Because I was saying that, like, my husband brings up this often, like, the reason why you're falling out with friends is because you're over investing, like, you're oversharing, and you guys are constantly together and you're constantly, like, venting and sharing with each other. And maybe that's where the disconnect comes in, or the
It
judgment, maybe.
depends. I think there are certain things you should keep for yourself. I think back in the day, I really was like, and I think that's also what caused a problem, is that we didn't have like that solid boundary, and boundaries are healthy. So you can't also, for example, disrespect your own marriage and go and talk about things that only belong in your
In your
home
marriage, yeah.
and in your marriage. Because once that sort of starts, if I'm going to go and unpack all my files with my hubby, you are naturally going to go and talk about it to Wayne. Thankfully, I think Wayne is not the type of guy who goes and like,
Oh, no,
you
he
get guys
doesn't
who
want to
do-
dive in.
no, but yeah, he's not that type of guy. But a lot of guys, they love gossip.
Yeah.
They love a good Skinner story. They're gonna go to work and go and say, "Hey, you know what? My wife's friend, she did this, and
Oh,
before
I
you know,
didn't look at it like that,
y-
actually.
yeah. So I think it's also normal, for example, that husband and wife they're gonna talk to each other. Partners are gonna talk to each other.
Yeah.
So at this age, also, it's fair to assume a lot of the time when you are gonna tell your deepest, darkest secret to your bestie, it's quite possible it's going to end up with their partner as well.
Yes.
Or, I just think that certain things are sacred.
Yeah.
And I just think in general, you should keep certain things for yourself.
Yeah.
But
When did
also,
you learn that?
the hard way.
No,
What do
but
you
like, did
mean?
you learn that in this stage, or do you think you learned it before, like, you had your daughter?
Yeah, definitely before my daughter.
Okay.
Um,
I learned it very recently.
no,
Like,
my
I'm
husband and I
talking
actually
now,
made
my 30s.
we actually made a video about it years ago, and we were talking about how there's just certain things like you really just should keep in your home.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can actually feel isolating because you're really in that moment. It is so hard, and you want to go to your friend and just be like, "Oh my god, I just want to
happened."
kill this thing
Yeah.
happened," and then you cool off, and a week from now it doesn't even matter. Now it's like, yeah, my
But
friend
someone
thinks my
actually
husband's a
said-
dick, but
yeah.
this thing happened.
I've listened to a podcast the other day where someone said, like, you forgive your partner or your
Yes.
boyfriend or husband or whatever, and then everyone else doesn't really forgive them. They sit with
Yes.
that story, and so you're carrying, like, other people are carrying resentment to your partner because of whatever
100%,
reason.
100%.
So I do agree that certain things like your relationship dynamics should remain private.
Yeah.
And then I also think there needs to be like space. I'm learning this now because in my 20s I had very close groups, and because we were part
Yeah.
of the same group, we are very close girlfriends, and then we'd have big falling outs.
Yeah.
Whereas now I've learned that there needs to be a bit of a room to, like, you don't see each other all the time, and like to have an adult relationship, you catch in, like, we have our tea coming up this week and it's like exciting and I'm going to see you and
Yeah.
we're going to talk and catch up. And then maybe we won't see each other physically for like a month.
For sure.
Which gives you that room to like not gossip firstly or like talk about overly like intense personal things. But then you can talk about things that you like, that you have a commonality with, whether it's like fashion or industry talk or whatever we talk about, kids. You're not going into gossip because you haven't already shared all the stories for the whole month, you know?
Yes. So that's another thing. Okay, this is going to sound a little bit more woohoo and karmic and maybe a dash of religion in here.
Yeah.
But I also feel like gossip is so commonly a bonding tool, especially amongst women. And I also do sometimes feel like it's a bit of a gray area. It's a bit of a fine line when something is a story, when something's relevant, when it's gossip. And it's easy to get carried away. And where the woo-woo comes in is that I don't feel like that's going to put like blessings and like abundance in your friendship if that is like
the cornerstones of your relationship.
Yes. If you can only gossip and you have nothing else to talk about, like eventually I don't know, I just feel like eventually you're going to turn on each other.
Yeah, and it becomes draining. And you do eventually turn on each other, really.
Yeah.
And the other way is to bond. So maybe let's unpack those ideas, because I think a lot of women listening to us today will probably be victims of that, like leaning into gossip, because it is the quickest way to build a connection, right? Because you go and you meet new people and you start gossiping about other people, you instantly feel connected to them, but it's like the superficial connection. And I think what I've learned in the last maybe 12 months is there are other ways to connect. You don't have to firstly go very deep, but you don't have to go so superficial that it's, gossip. I think activities are great. Like working out together or painting, or we never went horse riding, but they would have been fun.
I know, no, we can still do that.
Building a hobby with somebody and like building that kind of connection. I recently made a new friend, and she helped me with like a religious journey and like getting into the Quran and learning to read and stuff. And we bond mostly on that and the fact that we're moms. So it's like a healthy bond, It doesn't have to be religious, but like something that's not based on solely on gossip. And on venting. Because I think a lot of people sometimes think that, I'm not gossiping, I'm venting. But sometimes venting too much can be a big issue.
No, for sure. I think what could be fun here is if we spoke about what are all the pillars of our friendship, because we got like a lot.
That's nice. Let's unpack.
We've got obviously a long history.
Yeah.
Then we've got...
we recently discovered how long.
Same industry.
Yeah.
Moms, especially to two like toddler girls. We're both Muslim.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We're both married. One that I don't think it's talked about enough is that we were both girls of color in very white schools, which does a whole other number on your upbringing and your mentality from when you're younger, right, into adulthood, I think. And so we've got all these things in common and a couple of trauma bonds,
Yeah. Especially industry career-wise, there's a lot of trauma bonds around.
So that's like a whole other section. So there's a lot in common.
Yeah.
And there's always a lot to talk about. I feel like talking about somebody else is like the last thing.
On the list.
Or it has to be super
I know
relevant.
sometimes the tea is just too hot and it has to be shared. But I think if you can avoid that, if you find that the nature of the friendship is
based on that, and I've learned this now, then is it really a friend, or are you just looking for like some sort of connection? Are you feeling lonely? Yeah.
Because sometimes we're lonely and we want to just meet new people.
Yeah.
I know that you spoke to me, was it last night? We talked about this desire to have like a girl gang.
Yes.
And I think that...
my current craving.
I know.
It's like, when you're like, okay, it's been a long time, but like when you're young and single, you're like, I want someone. Like I want a relationship.
Yeah.
I've been feeling like that lately about like friendships. And I don't know if it's Instagram selling it to me.
It is Instagram selling it.
I think that's part of it, to be honest with you. But I also think that as a mom and like someone that's still trying to like build my future, build my career, I've spent so much time momming it up and like building that I have like so little time. And then I spent time with you and I spent time with Paul, and it was all in 1 week. And I was flying. Like
you were
my
busy
cup
with
was
excitement.
just so full. And it just reminded me of, like those days where you show up to your friend's house in your pajamas at 11 o'clock at night and someone brings a chocolate and you're just laughing and like I just miss those little things.
I think a lot of those girl gang things now, it's very much like I was saying to you yesterday, It's like social capital.
Yes,
Like
it
if we
is.
have a girl group, like a group of girlfriends
Especially
gaggling
if
and
everyone's
doing,
hot.
and everyone's hot and they wear cute
Yeah.
outfits. It's like this thing of like, it's like a social capital thing where you like better than other people because you have a group of girlfriends.
Yeah.
But then how I soothe myself through this form of thinking is that I want relationships that are meaningful. Like I'd rather invest in this dynamic, or like less is more in my case,
Yeah.
because we have this time crunch,
Yes.
And thankfully with our careers, we go to events and we're able to have that girl gang experience
Yeah.
without the sort of drama that comes around a group of women being close. So I do think that it comes from a place of like wanting the giggles, but there's so much admin that comes with the girl group.
Oh, of course. It's not all giggles.
No, it's like very minimal giggles.
It's, oh, why did the two of you go on a coffee run and you didn't,
Didn't
tell
invite
me?
me, or like, yeah.
Oh, she did this for me. Why couldn't you do this for me? Because that's literally what happened to us
No.
with our girl group. I remember having a friendship with one particular person separate. I actually introduced you guys,
Yeah.
and then suddenly, years on, there was just like this measure of expectation
Yes.
because one friend could do one thing and the other couldn't, and yeah, the degrees of comparison can get wild.
No,
for
it
sure.
gets intense, and women are confusing.
I also find that this is, on the one hand, a personal experience, but I definitely think that it can translate to a lot of people. Is that like for me, especially being a content creator for like 14 years, sometimes people want to be my friend because I'm fashion breed.
Oh my gosh, I can't even
Name
tell
I've
you
outgrown long ago, but anyway.
the amount of times this has happened to me.
And then how dare you be a real person? Like, how dare you not be fabulous all the
Yeah.
time? How dare you have emotions, But separate from that, people kind of then have this expectation of you. So now I have this like measurement where I judge if someone is my friend, my true friend or not, is you and I both need to be comfortable coming to each other's houses looking like crap and be willing to eat pizza on the floor and not post about it.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, then I know you're my friend.
100%. If the requirement of us hanging out is an Instagram post, I am out of there so fast, and I will ghost you because I can't. I don't believe in ghosting, which I want to go into as well. But I will ghost you for that because I can't deal with superficial relationships, not at this stage of the game. And I've been used so many times when someone launches a business. Oh my gosh, I'm their best friend.
Don't you want to post for me?
And I would fall for it every time. And then I would end up doing the post, and then they would disappear or exclude me or no longer hear from them because they got what they wanted. And feeling used is one of the worst experiences.
And I mean, other people, like, that is our currency, but other people might have the same thing, Their business might give them certain privileges that somebody wants to use them for it. They might come from a wealthy family, have a nice car. It can be anything, right?
Or, it come in the mom verse, it comes down to like lifting.
Oh my gosh,
that mom's
I'm
always
not
willing to
there.
lift, so they're going to be close with that mom because she's willing to do something. I was at an event where they spoke... Okay. I was at an event where they spoke about this, where like someone was suggesting to make use of the stay-at-home moms, and I got so triggered. They were saying like, use the stay-at-home moms, they're willing to lift the kids around. And it's like, don't be friends with someone just because you want lifts. I try to get out of that, and I don't even give an excuse. I'll ghost. And I don't know if this is appropriate or the right thing to do, but I will not speak to you again if you're using me. I can't.
Yeah, I also... something I have been trying to do recently because I get so into my friend time is I do try and snap a pic because I never do.
Yeah.
It always ends up being crap though because I really
Yeah, but
don't
the
put in
date
the
isn't
effort. But yeah,
about Instagram.
no, of course. But sometimes I do also feel like, oh, I wish I had like that memory.
know.
But for the most part, like those silent friendships are so underrated. Like I have friends who...
Wait, you shared a quote with me last night. What
we
is
don't
it?
talk about the silent friendships.
Yeah, the ones that don't make social media. Those are the best freaking friendships.
Yes.
I also want to talk about ghosting. Have you ever been ghosted by a friend?
I probably have. I can't think
You
of it
don't
now.
know.
I haven't had friend
This was
drama.
the Libra thing I've ever heard.
I
I don't know.
haven't had friend drama in so many years.
Oh,
like
yes,
it's
you
been
are.
like
You're very
years, so that's why I
lucky.
actually can't think.
Yeah.
But I probably have.
Yeah, I've been ghosted. It's like hell.
Yeah.
I I have never been broken up with by a guy, actually, ever in my life.
You know what? I actually...
But friends,
that's
wow.
a flex.
That's a flex. That's a
but
flex.
I actually, to be honest with you, I somewhat ghosted someone. Not ghosted. A couple of years ago. I'm not going to get into why because I actually haven't spoken to this person about it.
Yeah.
But I'm more like just constantly. I'm more like consciously started to distance myself slowly. Even now, we're still on like friendly terms.
I think there's a place for ghosting.
Yeah.
Like, what did this person do?
Yeah.
That's like, if they did something ghost worthy, then it's fine. But
Yeah.
as someone mentioned in the comments, they did say that it's better to tell the person where they went wrong because sometimes people don't know they're falling short.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the conversation, you can never rectify it, you know? And I appreciate when someone comes to me and says, like, this is what you've done, and I can then correct my behavior. But to ghost someone and not give them insight, I think, unless they're really toxic for you. Obviously, toxic people, you need to just exit as soon as possible.
So in my situation where I wouldn't call it ghosting, like I said, I just really consciously and with effort distanced myself. It was more the person had shown me what I actually meant to them, which she meant something to me, and I noticed that I didn't mean as much to her, and it was a very clear action. And I still, to this day, I feel like she knows what she did, but she never came forward and said, hey, I messed up with this thing. Instead, she kind of sucked up to me, but then also maintained the distance.
It's
it was
kind
very
of cowardice
weird.
to not apologize.
Yeah, it was very weird. So I just went, okay, I see what I am to you. And so I'm going to just take a conscious step backward and value myself now.
Yeah.
I didn't like just stop replying to her messages and ignore whatever. It wasn't that
Yeah,
like
I have done a bit of ghosting. I told you, if you're using me for Instagram, I'm not going to ghost you. But I've been ghosted also, and it really hurts. It's like one of the worst things I experienced because I didn't know what I did, and I just wanted to like make it right.
Yeah.
And then thankfully, eventually the person came to me and said to me, this is what with much prying. I had pried and I said, like, what did I do? Please tell me. And then eventually they told me, and I was able to apologize and correct the behavior and move on with the relationship. So we are closing soon. Okay, so before we go, I wanted to discuss one of our listener stories. So I told you I posted on Instagram and found a story from somebody, and I think it kind of leans into what we discussed today. So firstly, I asked them for their advice, and the advice that was shared was that I would address things as they happen rather than deciding that you've had enough and act weird instantly with no explanation, which is kind of what I've leaned into now. If you don't give someone the chance to correct their behavior, or you don't really appreciate them in the first place, and it's not fair to them. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then she says, I had a friend who would say really mean things to me, and I just got fed up and stopped responding to her messages and her invites. And I didn't end the friendship in a mature and emotionally intelligent way, even though my reasons were valid. I honestly don't regret it, but for my own morals and values, and to be able to say that I consistently do the right thing, I made a responsible choice, and I'm going to do better going forward. And I mean, I would say that you should actually go and reach out to that person. What do you think? Like, should you go back and speak to the person?
Yeah, I agree.
Because you know you weren't mature, so just go back and say it.
Yeah. That's what's tricky is I agreed with the person also who said that you need to address it like as it happens, because this was something that has happened to me so many times in the past is I just nod my head and I say yes and I'm quiet and I just take it, and then I explode. Like I can do this for a long time and then I explode. So when I do explode, I just look absolutely mental. So I have had to learn to actually address things with people earlier.
It's so awkward and uncomfortable. Hey guys, it's Aisha Baker from Bake the Podcast. I am sitting in my living room and I just recorded my whole podcast with the beautiful equipment rented from Orms. I've got lighting, sound, cameras, tripods, the works. If you need equipment, check out orms.co.za for your equipment and for great deals on cameras and other things that you might need.
We were lying in your bed. We must have been like 22 years old. And I said to you, I've definitely had more best friends than you. And you were like, no ways. I've had more best friends than you. Be 22. Okay, so like, how many best friends could you have? I don't know how many we counted, but then we counted it was a tie, but it was a really high number.
I think I can literally come for you now. The amount of best friends I've had since I was maybe 22 until now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love a best friend. My brother actually teases me and says to me, oh, this is your new bestie. Because I love a best friend. I love the concept of a best friend. I think it's so cute and like girly and girl-coded. It's like, oh, you go out with this person and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like you do everything together and you wear matching outfits and you buy each other presents. And like, I love that idea. But the amount of times, like I said, you know, I've never been dumped by a guy. And I've dated a lot of guys. But I've been dumped by girls like in the 20s. Like friends have just dumped me. And I've also had to look inside myself and say, like, what do I do wrong? Because obviously at some point you are the problem, you know. I'm not perfect. And I think when I reflect on it with my husband or my mom loves to give me the honest feedback, lover, God lover, but sometimes I can't take that honesty. And I think it's that I think I'm helping and it's coming across as judgmental. And so I've had to learn in this portion of my life that sometimes your opinion isn't, you are the witness to the movie. You're not in the movie with, you're not the main character or the supporting act actually.
Yeah.
You are watching the movie in the cinema. So you can't control what's happening in other people's lives. Like don't insert yourself. Don't try to save Aqeelah's new business. Like it's not your business. Like just if you're telling me something and you're sharing and I can offer you some sort of solution, like leave it there. Don't go overboard to the point that now I've helped you and I'm irritated you because I'm giving all my opinions and you're feeling judged, you know.
And if I don't take your advice, because you've now invested yourself, and I don't take your advice, then you get mad at me. You're like, oh, can you see? She did it again.
100%.
Like
and you know what's my problem? I will say, why didn't you take my advice? It was brilliant. So there's a bit of ego there and you have to be honest with yourself because sometimes you are the problem and you cause the issue. But I think with our dynamic and why I could come back to this relationship is because it was important to me and the pros outweigh the cons. We are more positive for each other than negative.
Yeah.
Other relationships, I won't crawl back. I will accept if they've dumped me and I'll apologize because you know me, Ramadan comes around and I was apologizing to everybody.
Oh yeah, I know them Ramadan messages.
Yeah, I need to send my Ramadan messages. And if you forgive me in that time and like with us, we were able to rebuild. And with other people as well, I've just recently reconnected with a friend that we had separated for like 4 years. We hadn't really spoken and she apologized for something that had gone on between us. And I instantly accepted the apology and moved forward with the relationship because she was such a good friend to me. And I think we have a nice dynamic. What are 5 or less things that you think are important in an adult friendship? Whether you have kids, no kids, hard job, husband, whatever. It doesn't matter the circumstances. Just like off the top.
5. Okay. Number 1, I think boundaries are important.
Ooh, juicy, yes.
Yeah. And sometimes boundaries can sound so therapy-like and so serious, but it can actually just be really healthy. And I think it's a cornerstone for a very healthy relationship. Another one I think would be, you know, shared morals and values. It actually is really...
Good. Damn, you're so mature.
Important. Thanks. Yeah, because after a while, you're going to see your friends do some weird things if that's not important. And, you know.
I think that I'm going to add to your list. So we said morals and what
boundaries.
Boundaries. Very important. I don't know about that. I'm still learning. I think that I think loyalty is important.
Yes,
like
definitely.
Knowing that if my friends at a function and like someone's speaking badly about me, I don't necessarily need to know the bad comment, but I'd like them to stand up for me. And that's my view of loyalty.
Yeah.
And like a commitment. It's a little bit of a commitment to each other.
Yeah.
And then one thing that's important to me is like support. So if I'm opening a new business or I'm starting a new, I did my Pilates course, just like clapping for me, liking my posts.
No, that is so important. It's a very underrated thing.
It means so much to support your friends, you know.
Even just listening to them vent about their new venture or whatever it may be. Another one I think that is so important that my husband and I also realized was when it came to our marriage, and I think you can apply this in friendship, is that romance, or in this case, an act of love and support and friendship, it has many faces, and it doesn't always come in Instagram format. So, for example, you might think that somebody supporting you is making a huge public display on social media or sending you flowers or like, but it could literally just be a phone call check-in to know that I'm thinking of you.
100%.
But
like the love language is knowing the love language.
Yes, but I just think that it's so easy now to compare ourselves to other people, what other people's friendships look like. Like we're saying, the social currency of a girl gang. You could easily think, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me because I'm not surrounded by 5 hot girlfriends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who are all buying me flowers because I opened a nail bar.
God.
Women are just hot. I mean, I'm sure they're
just seeing it everywhere lately.
But yeah, I do think that don't be hard on yourself if you don't have what everyone else's friendship is looking like. What are your thoughts about rivalry, jealousy, especially amongst women?
That's so crazy because I just experienced this recently with a friend of mine. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this. I thought it was really big of her. She came and apologized because she said that she got competitive with me around our careers, and she had felt that, I was copying her, and that's why she stopped speaking to me.
Oh.
And then upon reflection, she realized that actually that wasn't her own feelings. It was other people projecting that competition, She wasn't feeling competitive initially. And that other people had just like put it in her mind.
That's a thing.
And I often think that's what happens. Because even with you and I, like there was a stage when it was competitive, but I felt like it was like clients and like PR people being like put us up against each other.
Definitely.
When we never felt that, when there was no money involved in the industry and we were just doing it for fun, there was never competition. We like posted every day the same day. We shot each other's content. We gave each other like tips, and you taught me how to shoot pictures. There was never a competition. And then suddenly, when there was money involved, and I felt like it wasn't coming from us, truly.
No, it's true. I also remember people being like, oh, did you notice that Aisha's also doing this? Or like, and it would be stupid things. It would be like, oh, did you notice Aisha is wearing a pink top today, but yesterday you wore a pink top. It's like silly things. Like people were just like, and then you think that it's something that it's totally
I'm the kind
not.
of person that people get competitive with me in general. And I feel like it's like you get that as well.
But another thing is, it's funny, I actually made a video about this today. And we spoke about it on a recent TV interview we did together, about like scarcity mindset and how it like infiltrates friendships. So especially amongst women, because as women, and especially women of color, we really just believe there's only room for one person.
Because we're told that you have to be the first one to do this and to break the ceiling.
And this is what I say, is that you and I, we went to very white girl schools. So it's like perpetuated in our minds because we're just seeing like the white girls getting head girl and perfect and head of this and head of that. And you think that, okay, if one of us is going to make it, it's only going to be one.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel like our clients and peers sometimes push that narrative as well. They can't be two brown girls. You're both Muslim and you're both... You can't both be in the thing. And honestly, which is so silly, because if I look back at it, we had relaunched our websites with the same company that designed our websites, because you introduced me to the company. Like, we were constantly helping each other. I think the competition was definitely not coming from us. And I do want to say that rivalry in friendships is sometimes created by the outside pressure cooker.
Yes.
And I see that sometimes with, like, you were speaking about partners enjoying gossip, right? I see that sometimes in relationships too, where like someone's husband or boyfriend will say like, oh, she's copying you, or that girl wants to be like you. And it's like, those girls are not even competing with each other now. These outside forces are creating a competition that doesn't exist.
So I found that I actually had to do the work with myself.
Yeah.
And then when people come to me with those comments, because they still do with random things, you know, I have to nip it in the bud. And I have to say...
you're so good at that.
And I have to say, you know what? No, you know, she didn't copy that from me. That's just trending right now.
Yeah. There's enough space for everybody.
I didn't reinvent the wheel. There's enough space for everyone. There's enough for everyone.
Yeah.
Or I'll say, oh my gosh, did she? Let me see. And then I'll clap for her.
I actually love someone copying me. I find it very, like, I feel good. Like, if someone buys the same thing as me, I'm like, oh my gosh, twins.
So, and I think we all have to kind of overcome that feeling of there's just not going to be enough for me if she has it. And we also have to look at our peers as our inspiration, as this means it's possible for me.
I think competition's good in a certain setting, like if you're playing sports or like
of course.
then it's great. But don't compete over every fucking thing. Like that's just like there's a limit.
No,
you know?
for sure.
Like if you have brown hair and I have brown hair, I'm not trying to be like one up you with my hair dye. It's like people need to actually release the sphincter and relax. Like not everything's a fucking competition. So I think I feel like it's society, social media. Women are always like pitted against each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And held in this high regard.
But then it also, you like start to mirror each other's, because once you're in that mindset, now if I see Aisha can do something really amazing, I think to myself, can I do that? Am I supposed to be doing that?
Yeah.
Do I have the ability to do something equally as great? And then it just becomes like this vicious cycle. And I was actually thinking earlier, I remember when we had just started our blogs and we didn't make money from content creation. We didn't know it was even possible. I remember I used to just have this like warm, happy feeling in my heart that I had this friend and we were doing this thing that everyone thought was weird, but I had someone to be weird with. And it was just so special. There was never competition. Like when I say, I remember if you took a really cool outfit picture, I was so happy for you. And I've gone back into channeling that now for myself and just pushing out the noise in my own head, pushing out other people's weird mentalities that they come and put onto my thought process. And I just choose to just clap for people, especially women, because no way is that stuff eats you alive. Like
it's not worth it.
It's gonna make you sick.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. I hope that
You're welcome.
those out there are not going through a breakup, because it's the hardest and saddest and most difficult thing. And if you are, we love you and we're sending love to you and healing.
And I hope it works out.
Yeah, me too.